to say that this president that we are looking at is the same person that we looked at in 2020. I think it would be dishonest for us to look at him and his performance now and his performance across the board, really, not in terms of policy and what he's gotten done, but when he speaks and his appearance.
The ongoing feud between Donald Trump and The View has been a battle years in the making. This isn't just about a few uncomfortable interviews or political differences. It's personal. Long before his presidential run, Trump was a regular guest on the show. Back then, the atmosphere was much friendlier. The hosts would laugh, joke around, and even express admiration for his business empire. But everything changed drastically after one particular moment. The turning point came in 2011 when Trump stirred controversy by promoting the birther conspiracy, questioning whether Barack Obama was really born in the United States. Whoopi Goldberg wasn't having any of it, blasting him for the ridiculous claims. Joy Behar followed up, grilling Trump on his true intentions. That moment wasn't just another interview. It marked the start of the animosity between Trump and The View. Fast forward to his presidency, and The View became one of his most vocal critics. Joy called him a dictator in training, while Sonny Hostin accused him of spreading lies. The only conservative voice at the table, Meghan McCain, defended some of his policies, but even she had her limits. Trump didn't stay quiet. He fired back on Twitter, calling the show boring.
We need a free and fair press badly, desperately. I watched the way they asked questions of Kamala yesterday. Howard Stern, he's a weak guy. He's weak. He's going, what about, It was so...
Trump didn't hold back. He took aim at the hosts' ratings, their credibility, even their intelligence. But despite all the attacks, the feud only fueled The View's popularity. More people tuned in, more headlines were generated, and the back and forth continued without pause. What started as a political disagreement had evolved into a full-blown war, and it was far from over. Before politics turned them into bitter enemies, Donald Trump was a frequent guest on The View in the early 2000s. He wasn't just welcomed, he was treated like TV royalty. Back then, Trump wasn't the polarizing political figure we know today. He was the flashy billionaire real estate mogul, the man who made headlines with his business deals and The Apprentice. Every time he appeared on the show, the hosts leaned in, laughing at his jokes and captivated by his larger-than-life personality. The conversations were light-hearted. Trump talked about money, success, and, of course, his signature catchphrase, "You're fired." The dynamic was different back then. Trump and Barbara Walters had mutual respect. Joy Behar made playful jabs at his hair, and he played along. Whoopi Goldberg even went so far as to call him a friend.
Sorry. That was for real, I'm sorry. He even surprised some Republicans with sweeping pardons to the January 6th insurrectionists, including Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and other violent rioters. But he wasn't thrilled about Biden issuing pardons of his own on the way out. Take a look.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Trump shared his opinions on everything. Celebrities, business, even dating advice. The conversations were casual, entertaining, and most importantly, non-political. But beneath the light-hearted banter, there were hints of what was to come. Trump had strong opinions, and he never backed down. He thrived on attention, and controversy was always simmering just under the surface. At the time, no one realized that these early interviews were just the warm-up for a much bigger conflict down the road. By 2011, Donald Trump was no longer just a businessman. He was making waves in politics. When he walked onto The View that year, the tone was different. This wasn't another fun chat about his casinos or his reality TV empire. It was a battleground. Trump was pushing the birther conspiracy, questioning whether Barack Obama was truly born in the United States. He insisted there were serious doubts about Obama's birth certificate and made it clear he wasn't convinced the president was telling the truth. The host's response was immediate. Whoopi Goldberg, usually calm and composed, was furious. She cut him off, calling his claim the biggest pile of dog mess I've ever heard. She accused him of pushing a racist narrative and questioned why Obama, the first black president, was the only one being asked to prove his citizenship.
Last 4 years,
Yes.
all we've heard is, I won, they were mean to me, they were mean to me, I won, I won, I won, I won, I won. You lost! You lost!
Joy Behar immediately jumped in, pressing Trump on why he was so fixated on the issue. He avoided the question, insisting he was simply asking legitimate ones. Barbara Walters, usually the diplomat, tried to steer the conversation in a new direction, but it was clear Trump had crossed a line. The tension in the room was palpable. The audience wasn't laughing. This wasn't the same Trump who had once joked around with the panel. The light-hearted exchanges were gone, replaced by a heated clash. From that moment on, his relationship with The View would never be the same. What had once been a show that welcomed him with open arms became one of his loudest critics. And Trump didn't forget it. He took that hostility and used it as ammunition, turning it into evidence that the mainstream media was out to get him. That 2011 interview wasn't just a heated debate, it marked the moment Donald Trump and The View became sworn enemies, and the battle was only beginning. When Trump became president, The View amped up its criticism. While the show had always leaned left, now the attacks felt deeply personal. Every day, the hosts hammered his policies, his statements, and even his personality. They didn't hold back. Joy Behar was relentless. She called Trump a wannabe dictator, accused him of undermining democracy, and frequently questioned his mental fitness. When the infamous Access Hollywood tape surfaced, she declared, "He's done." But Trump wasn't done, and that only fueled Behar's attacks even more.
But this is the same man that was Barack Obama's vice president for 8 years. And it would be dishonest for us to look at his record as a senator, which is a darn good record, and say that that is the same man that we are looking at today. And that concerns me, okay? But what I will say is, they say behind every great man is a great woman. Kamala Harris, as Anna said...
Sunny Hostin, a former prosecutor, took direct aim at Trump's legal troubles. She called him a criminal and condemned his handling of race issues, especially after the Charlottesville incident, when Trump claimed there were very fine people on both sides of the violent protests. Sunny's outrage was evident as she labeled it one of the lowest points in modern political history. Then there was Meghan McCain, the sole conservative voice at the table. While she sometimes defended Trump's policies, she clashed with him over his treatment of her father, Senator John McCain. When Trump mocked her father's war record, Meghan fought back on air, visibly emotional, declaring, "He will never be a great man." The show also took on Trump's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, calling his approach reckless and dangerous. Whoopi Goldberg slammed him for downplaying the virus, and Joy Behar went even further, blaming him for thousands of deaths. Trump didn't stay silent. He fired back on Twitter, calling the show totally biased and its hosts stupid. But the more he attacked, the more The View pushed back. The tension had reached a boiling point. What had started as political debate had now escalated into an all-out war between a sitting president and a daytime talk show.
Excuse me, maybe I was clumsy in the way that I said it.
I'm 2 feet away. I don't need you to scream at me this way.
Abby was, I don't know what you just said, but
I said don't scream at me. I'm 2 feet away.
I'll read it.
You know what Julian Assange did, in my mind too, is just as dangerous as what the president is being charged with doing, or people are assuming that he did. It's putting people's lives in danger. It's putting our national intelligence. It's throwing them completely under the bus for their own.
Neither side was backing down. Donald Trump never lets an attack go unanswered, and The View was no exception. As the show ramped up its criticism of him during his presidency, Trump fought back fiercely. He didn't just brush them off, he made The View a target at his rallies, in interviews, and on social media. At rallies, he mocked the show's ratings, calling it dying television and claiming the only reason people watched was to see how badly it had fallen. He singled out Joy Behar, labeling her one of the dumbest people on TV, and took particular aim at Whoopi Goldberg, dismissing her as a washed-up comedian who was never funny to begin with. Sunny Hostin became another favorite target. Trump questioned her intelligence, saying, "She calls herself a legal expert, but she doesn't know a thing. I've met real lawyers, she's not one." His supporters ate it up, laughing and cheering every time he mocked the hosts. The more Trump attacked, the more The View responded. The show used his words as proof of his bullying and misogyny, and it became a constant talking point. Despite Trump's claim that nobody watched, the show's ratings actually increased. His attacks also divided the audience. His supporters saw The View as part of the fake news machine, while his critics viewed the hosts as some of the only women on TV willing to stand up to him. Whether people loved or hated the feud, one thing was certain, it wasn't going away.
Well, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the administration, the people who are actually impacted by this, the people who sent out Rudy
All
Giuliani.
Americans are impacted by this.
No, what I'm talking about, the administration. I'm talking about sending Rudy Giuliani out to distract us. I'm talking about telling us yesterday that, I don't know, Stephen Miller is actually dating a human being, not an inflatable.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
But it's an attempt at humor.
By October 2024, Trump was deep into his re-election campaign, and The View remained one of his favorite targets. During a rally in Pennsylvania, he didn't hold back. "They sit around that table pretending to know everything," he mocked, referring to the hosts. Whoopi's still angry about something, Joy's still miserable, and the others, who even knows their names? The crowd erupted in laughter. He then took a direct shot at Sunny Hostin, saying, "She acts like she's smart, but I've seen smarter people working at my hotels." The jabs kept coming. He called the show a disaster, claiming, "Nobody watches, but they still talk about me every day." The next morning, The View fired back. Whoopi was furious, shaking her head, saying, "He's obsessed with us. We live in his head rent-free." Joy Behar laughed it off, saying, "Imagine being the former president of the United States and spending your time trashing a talk show. That's leadership, folks." But it was Sunny who had the strongest response. "This is a man running for president again, and he's out here attacking women instead of talking about the issues." She then challenged him directly, "If you think we're so dumb, come on the show and say it to our faces." The back and forth ignited social media, with Trump supporters defending him and his critics calling him unhinged. Nearly a decade into the feud, it was still going strong, and with Election Day drawing near, neither side was backing down.
That's why people like the show is they know it's not scripted and they know we're not being phony, and I'm not trying to placate to an audience, and we're also not, I watched other shows that we compete with and we don't shy away from controversy and really hard topics, and I think for women in this country it's important to know that you don't just have to talk about light things all the time.
Whoopi Goldberg doesn't hold back, and when Donald Trump came for her, she made sure to fire back even harder. After Trump mocked her during his October 2024 rally in Pennsylvania, calling her a washed-up comedian and saying she was never funny, Whoopi let loose the next morning on The View. Leaning forward with sarcasm in her voice, she said, "So, the former president of the United States, a man who's supposedly busy running for office, is sitting around talking about my comedy career." The audience laughed, and Whoopi smirked, adding, "I didn't know I had that much power over his life." But then she got serious. "You want to talk about washed-up careers?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Let's talk about those casinos you bankrupted. Let's talk about the fake university you had to pay millions for. Let's talk about all the lawsuits you're drowning in right now." Whoopi didn't stop there. Taking aim at Trump's claim that The View was a disaster, she shot back, "Last I checked, we're still on the air, still making headlines, and still making people laugh." Then, without missing a beat, she added, "Unlike certain ex-presidents who lost their jobs and can't get over it." The audience went wild. Some people stood up, cheering, while even her co-hosts grinned, clearly enjoying the moment. Social media erupted with clips of Whoopi's fiery rant, spreading like wildfire.
And this is what the country and the world woke up to this morning. Take a look.
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
So, How you feel?
I'll start. Yeah, go ahead.
Whoopi wasn't done. She brought up Trump's history of attacking women, pointing out that he had a long pattern of going after female journalists, politicians, and TV personalities. He's always had a problem with women who don't bow down to him, she said. Newsflash, Donnie, we're not going anywhere. Her takedown was sharp, brutal, and unforgettable. And just like that, the feud between Trump and The View reached a new level. If Trump thought calling Sunny Hostin dumb would silence her, he was dead wrong. The day after his rally, Sunny was ready, and she didn't just respond, she tore into him with cold, hard facts. She started off calm but firm. The former president thinks I'm dumb, she said. This is coming from a man who confused Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi and still doesn't understand how government works. The audience laughed, and she kept going. Let's talk about intelligence, shall we? Then, Sunny went straight for Trump's legal troubles. How about we talk about the 91 criminal charges he's facing, the fraud case in New York, the classified document scandal. A smart man doesn't end up with this many indictments. The crowd clapped, and her co-hosts nodded in agreement. But then, Sunny made a bold move. You know what, Mr. Trump? She said, locking eyes with the camera. If you think I'm so dumb, come on the show. Sit right here at this table and say it to my face. The challenge, a direct invitation, hung in the air. The studio audience gasped, and the internet exploded. Would he take the bait? Probably not. But that wasn't the point. Sunny had just turned Trump's insult into a viral moment, making him look weak. If he ignored it, he'd be seen as avoiding a confrontation. Her response wasn't just about defending herself. It was about standing up to a man who had spent years tearing down women on national television. In that moment, Sunny made it clear she wasn't afraid of him. Alyssa Farah Griffin, however, was in a unique position. She wasn't just another TV host. She was once part of Trump's inner circle, serving as his White House communications director. Having seen firsthand how he operated, Alyssa had a perspective no one else on the panel shared. When Trump launched his tirade against the show, Alyssa took a different approach. While Joy, Whoopi, and Sunny responded with anger, Alyssa saw it as a calculated move.
My takeaway is that the system works. We live in a democracy. People spoke. This is what people wanted. I vehemently disagree with the decision that Americans made, but I feel very, very hopeful that we have a democratic system in this country. We should value it. We should love it. We should protest if the situation arises that we need to protest, which I'm sure it will. And I've been through this before with Nixon. It's been very difficult. But boy, oh boy, do we have a country if we can keep it.
This is what he does, Alyssa explained. He picks fights to stay relevant and keep his base fired up. She pointed out that Trump doesn't actually care about The View. He just knows that attacking it makes headlines and plays well with his supporters. But then she got to the part that really mattered, the political fallout. This is why he keeps losing women voters, she said. Suburban women, educated women, even some Republican women, they don't like this kind of bullying. She reminded the audience that in 2020, Trump lost a significant portion of female support, particularly in swing states. And here he is, 4 years later, still attacking women on TV instead of focusing on policy. Alyssa also warned Trump's Republican allies, every time he does this, he pushes more moderates away. If Republicans don't wake up, they're going to lose again. Her insight was sharp, and it wasn't something Trump's diehard supporters wanted to hear. But for the rest of the audience, it was a reminder that this feud wasn't just TV drama. It had real political consequences. The ongoing battle with Donald Trump has changed The View in ways no one could have predicted. What was once a daytime talk show known for celebrity interviews and lifestyle segments has become a major political force. Ever since Trump entered the political arena, the show has leaned harder into politics. The debates have become more heated, the commentary more pointed, and the headlines more frequent. Ratings have surged, with more people tuning in not just to watch the fights, but to hear real discussions about the issues. Trump's attacks have also made The View more relevant. Instead of fading into the background like many long-running talk shows, it has remained in the national conversation. When Trump rants about Whoopi or Joy at a rally, it only draws more attention to the show, and the producers know it. They've embraced the controversy, making politics a bigger part of the daily discussions. But it's not just about ratings. The feud has reshaped the show's public perception. To Trump's critics, The View has become one of the last spaces where powerful women openly challenge him.
The sentiment story, one of the first thing I wanted to say for anyone that needs an example of when the person you voted for does not win, you do not say the system must be broken or that it was rigged. You say it is what it is, and you show up anyway. And I want to commend all those people that voted, because you sometimes hear people say, well, it didn't matter. No, it did matter. That was still your currency. That was still your power. And people turned out. Now, if you didn't vote, you really don't have a say in the conversation, so you can go ahead and sit down. But for the rest of you, and then a lot of what...
To Trump supporters, it's a prime example of mainstream media bias. The View is seen as a show full of Trump-hating liberals. But despite his constant attacks, The View remains standing and stronger than ever. While other daytime shows struggle to stay relevant, The View has turned its political clashes into must-watch TV. Trump may claim that nobody watches, but the numbers tell a different story. Whether you love it or hate it, one thing is clear: this feud has kept The View in the spotlight, and it's not going away anytime soon. Donald Trump and The View, a feud that started with a few tense interviews and exploded into a full-blown political war. From his early, more friendly visits to the fiery 2011 clash over Obama's birth certificate, to years of The View hammering his presidency, the battle has never stopped. Trump's counterattacks, his insults toward Whoopi, Joy, and Sunny, and his rally rants have only fueled the show's success. This isn't just entertainment, it's a reflection of America's political divide. Trump uses The View as an easy villain, while the show uses him as a symbol of everything wrong with politics. With the 2024 election heating up, this war is far from over. Will Trump ever take Sunny's challenge and appear on the show, or will he continue attacking from the sidelines? Either way, this feud isn't going anywhere. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.